It shouldn't take a lot of proof to convince you that Justin Trudeau was just about the worst Prime Minister we've ever had. As an example, on Monday, the European Union and the United States announced a new trade deal. Not really a deal. There's nothing signed. There are no specifics. There's a couple of overarching goals that the two sides want to achieve. But this is kind of like the Japanese deal a week ago and the UK deal about 6 weeks ago. They're very short on details. And in trade negotiations, that's where you start from, not where you end up. So do I believe that this is a deal with the EU? No, I don't really. But it does have some broad concepts that are very interesting. And one of them shows what a goof Justin Trudeau was. Ursula von der Leyen, who is the president of the EU, said in her post-deal press conference with Trump that the EU would buy about $750 million US. That's about $1 trillion Canadian. $1 trillion Canadian of LNG, oil, and nuclear fuels from the United States. Now, here's where the Trudeau part comes in. Do you remember Trudeau said that we wouldn't build any kinds of ports on the East Coast or pipelines to get gas to those ports? We wouldn't do any of that because it made no business sense. There was no business case for building pipelines and ports. Now, how's about $1 trillion? That sounds like a good business case to me. I mean, if you had to believe Trudeau, then the Europeans and the Americans are dumb. They're about to go into this deal where they're going to sell something that has no business case. This is just how green and idiotic Trudeau was. Now you can see the examples of what's happened here, missing out on $1 trillion worth of government revenue and private sector revenue. $1 trillion. Do you remember how many jobs that would be? Do you have any idea how much income is going to be generated, not just for the private owners of the pipeline and the ports, but also for governments? How many hospitals, how many schools? It's ridiculous to say there's no business case. It was ridiculous then, it's ridiculous now. And the Americans and the Europeans have simply proved that. Trudeau had no idea what he was doing, and his government was dangerous. That's why we lost $400 billion in investment during the 10 years that Trudeau was Prime Minister. That's why our per capita GDP has declined. That's why we've dropped out of the top 25 richest countries in the world, because they made decision after decision after decision based on their pie-in-the-sky environmental ideas, and they missed legitimate, on-the-ground, real-world investment opportunities. They were simply awful. And at least half of the cabinet is still with Mark Carney. So Mark Carney could show that we're going to have a different approach by coming up with a trade deal like the ones the Europeans and the Japanese have signed. He could prove that he's different from Trudeau by authorizing a cross-country pipeline or two to take that kind of energy to the East Coast, where we might just be able to get in on the Americans' business. But we may have lost out our opportunity, our biggest opportunity, to become an LNG exporter, because Trudeau said in his ill-informed and idealistic way, there is no business case to sell LNG to the EU. For Post Media, I'm Lorne Gunter.